Alright, guys, this is my Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver spoiler review. So if you've not seen the movie and you don't want it spoiled, do not move forward. I will be spoiling this movie. Okay, so like I said in my non-spoiler review, I thought this movie was a big step up from Part 1. A lot more action. Let's start from the beginning. The Admiral is still alive, who you thought died in the last movie. This is one of the parts I really like. They have him kind of like hooked up almost like Darth Vader in the beginning, and he has like all of these really colorful tubes going in and out. And the people working on him kind of remind me almost like the Night Sisters from Star Wars, almost like a little bit more robotic. And this is kind of the stuff that I wish Snyder leaned into more. I thought he set up some really, really cool sci-fi scenes. Even like the voice modulation was cool. It was dark. So this was definitely one of the scenes I liked more in the movie. They really, really scaled back the plot in this movie. It really was very, very simple. It was pretty much just almost what was supposed to be the Empire and the Dreadnought trying to get the grain, returning to the planet that they were in the first one with the farmers, and essentially the farmers just being trained with some scenes throughout the movie, and then essentially having almost like an hour, I want to say almost like an hour long, 45-minute long battle scene where they kind of ambush them and they kind of just fight until the end of the movie. Diamond Hansu plays a much bigger role in this movie. He's one of the main characters. He's one of the people that pretty much trains these people throughout the movie, the farmers, to kind of get them ready for this big battle at the end. As I said also in my other review, I'm a big fan of this Anthony Hopkins robot. It's essentially a C-3PO robot who can fight, who also gives you exposition and kind of has like a big historical memory of everything that's happened. So I think this is one of the cooler parts for sure. Still, although I like this movie better, I just have issues with the overall plot. I still think it's too clunky. I think he needed to streamline this, maybe have more writers involved. He just has too many different source materials kind of influencing this. And still the plot leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, essentially throughout the Empire stealing grain, which doesn't really make sense in context. Like, what are the other planets? Who are the other people? What are the other species? Things like that. Another part that I felt kind of weird, and maybe I missed it, was although this is sci-fi and there's a lot of sci-fi elements, it doesn't seem like anyone in this universe is not human. Now, this could just be to save money on the budget, but it is kind of weird to say you want to do a Star Wars movie and a sci-fi movie and then not have any creatures, which is pretty much the baseline of this movie. And closing out, Snyder wanted to, make a Star Wars movie, and I just think, and I don't think there's any way around it unless he improves his directing style. I just don't think he's good enough to make one. He's good enough to certainly work on one and maybe have some input and maybe do some action scenes. But Snyder would have to prove himself, I would think, in like a Mandalorian episode. He just is not a good enough storyteller. He's an action guy. He's an idea guy, but when it comes to actually executing this, using the budget the correct way, building story, to me, he's almost like the polar opposite of someone like James Gunn, where that's his specialty. In closing out this two-part series for Netflix, do I think it was a win or a loss? I think it's more of a win, I guess. But for Snyder, I don't know if this really puts him in a different, place coming into this relationship with Netflix that he had before. He still has kind of the same fan base that likes him. He still has the same people who don't like him and will dislike these two movies. And I don't know if this really gives him the juice to make a bigger franchise. So I think he's just going to have to keep going. I'm not a fan of creating your own IP. I think it's extremely difficult to do. To create your own universe where people are going to care about it is very hard to do. It takes years and years and years. So we'll see. I think it's back to the drawing board for him. But this is my spoiler review. There's not much to spoil. It's pretty much just all action. Thanks, guys, for watching. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.